Krystal Lindemann, Krystal 93 News Director, in the studio today with Sharon Kay White. She is playing Sue Mengers in the latest Lake Dillon Theatre Company production, I'll Eat You Alive. Sharon, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. It's actually I'll Eat You Last.
Oh, I'll Eat You Last. That's right. I need to get that one right then. I'll Eat You Last.
And the full title is I'll Eat You Last, a chat with Sue Mengers.
Well, and you are playing Sue Mengers.
I am.
One-person show.
Yes, it is.
Tell me a little bit about your history with one-person productions. Is this the first one you've done, or have you done a couple of these over the years?
No, this is the first one I've done. I've never done a one-person show before, and it's a big challenge, but we actors love a challenge. So it's been a really rewarding experience.
Great. And what made you decide to just go ahead and do this one, after not doing one yet?
Well, I guess it is that very thing, the challenge. And also, I was asked by the artistic director of Lake Dillon Theatre Company, which I have come to love and consider a home away from home. So any chance to get back up here to Summit County from where I'm based in Denver is top of my list.
Yeah. And you perform all across the state. Where else have you performed?
Well, I lived in New York for 12 years, and that brought me all over the world, actually. But for the last 15 years, I've been based in Denver, and really just most of the area theaters in Denver, and a little bit of Colorado Springs, and then up here in Summit County.
What do you like about the Colorado and even, the Denver and then larger Colorado theater scene?
It really is a close-knit community. Everybody's very supportive of one another, and we all know each other for the most part, and it really becomes kind of a family, which is just lovely.
Yeah, and that surely makes it easy to be able to pop all around town and spend a couple weeks up in Summit if you want to.
Yes, definitely.
Now, tell us a little about the show. Who is Sue Mengers?
Sue Mengers was a real live person. She was the first female power agent in Hollywood, representing some of the top stars back in the days of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, including Gene Hackman, Mike Nichols, Sybil Shepherd, Burt Reynolds, a lot of big names, Cher, and most notably Barbra Streisand.
And that's kind of what this particular performance centers around, right? Is waiting for a call from Babs.
That's right. She is waiting for the call from her top client, Barbra Streisand. And along the way, in the waiting for the call in her living room, she shares lots of stories and anecdotes about the business and her many encounters with the glitterati of Hollywood.
Now, over the years, did you know of Sue Mengers before taking this project on?
I didn't, actually. Last summer, I was up here doing the sister act and Noises Off at Lake Dillon, and artistic director Chris Alleman asked me if I knew about this script, and I had not known about it, and nor had I known about the existence of Sue Mengers. So it's opened up this whole new world to me.
Well, now, when you prepare for something like this, do you then do research a little bit about the person themselves?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you usually do a fair amount of research on almost any script you undertake, even if it's fictional. If it's set in a period, you would do research about that period, or if it's set in another country, something like that. In this case, here I am doing research on a person who had her own actual history, and you feel a responsibility to get it right, since she really did exist. Yeah,
that's the truth, and especially because I'm sure that she has been interviewed and been on TV. Were you able to see her and see how she acted? Do that?
Yes. She, this is something that is not common. She was interviewed for a piece on 60 Minutes, just a piece about her. As a talent agent, you'd probably have to rise really very high in the ranks to have a profile in 60 Minutes. And I think partly because she was a woman in a man's field, that elevated her even further. But that exists. You can see that on YouTube. And that was a really good resource for my research. Yeah,
so study up a little bit yourself before you head out and see the show. Get a little taste of the real-life Sue Mengers on 60 Minutes. What was some of the stuff you learned about her, or anything surprising or unexpected that you found out about the real Sue Mengers?
What she is known for is her very out there personality. She did not mince words, and she liked to use all the words, if you know what I mean. And you will see that and hear that on stage. Yes, she very much was a provocative person, and I think that was her goal, to provoke and, take center stage most of the time.
Yeah, it makes for great drama, especially, I'm sure.
Yeah. And comedy.
And comedy, absolutely. Well, now that you're a week into the run of this show, what have you enjoyed about playing Sue Mengers?
This particular piece, the character of Sue and me as the actor, talking directly to the audience. And so the audience is along for the ride. And to see that and experience that, feel that, be in that room where we're all in this collective piece. I mean, that's always true. An audience is always the last character of the play, basically. But usually you're not talking directly to them and looking into their eyes, but I'm doing that in this show, and that's been fun.
It's been fun. Has it been a little unsettling? A little
bit. I mean, at the beginning, when I first had a first audience full of just Lake Dillon staff and friends and my fellow castmates from The Underpants, which is the show we closed a couple of weeks ago, it was very unsettling because usually you can kind of stare into the abyss and you're sort of reading the lines on the page in your mind. And in this case, here I was looking into the eyes of my friends and just forgetting my lines. And so in the first few performances, there were times when I definitely had to kind of look between the people in order to, kind of just be able to remember the lines, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's all me talking for 75 minutes.
Well, I was going to ask, how long is it? And it's no breaks,
There's no intermission,
okay.
But it is a short piece that clips along pretty good. And but when it's just you talking for 75 minutes, that's a lot of words.
I would imagine. I mean, I've never talked for 75 minutes. It seems like a marathon.
A little bit.
Now, coming up into the final week of this, have you tweaked your performance at all? Any changes that you've made? Other than, like you said, looking between the people instead of sometimes right at them.
I wouldn't call them changes, but enhancements, I guess. Maybe even that's the wrong word. But just as you get more comfortable with it, get more sure of your memorization, you can just sort of settle into it better and find all the many colors of Sue as you go. So it gets more like to be into full flower, I suppose, towards the end of the run. Yeah,
very cool. And finally, what have you been hearing as far as reaction to the show? What have people been saying to you either after or before or whenever?
Well, there is a talk back, a little group discussion after every performance. And, something like a quarter to a third of the audience will stay for that. And they've been very complimentary about how much they've enjoyed the evening. So that's been wonderful to hear that feedback.
Yeah, very cool. And that's kind of a cool thing that do most theaters do that? Some do?
No. I've never worked at a theater that does a talk back after every show. I have heard of one or two that have done that. Many theaters will do like one or two talkbacks during the entire run, and sometimes it's they're doing something like 40 performances, and 2 of them will have a talkback. And there are certain audience members that specifically buy their ticket for the night that they know there will be one.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't doubt. So they get a chance to get that, behind the scenes. It's almost a little like the DVD commentary for the live performance.
But like Dillon Theatre Company, one of their mission statements is an intimate relationship with their audience. And to that end, their audience sizes are smaller than many theaters. And also in the way that they engage with the audience, in not just a talk back after the performance, which they call the epilogue, but also the prologue before the performance, where if you wanted to get there a little early, you could hear some backstory and stuff about production history and the playwright and so forth.
And Sharon, along with this performance, this is not the only thing you'll be doing at the Lake Dillon Theatre this fall. Tell us about you're doing a cabaret as well.
Yes, I'm doing a musical cabaret. It's called Love and other stuff. And it'll be performing 7:30 p.m. on Friday night, September 28th. So it's just me and an accompanist and lots of wonderful music and some comedy and some drama and some fun stuff.
All sorts of stuff. Now, when it comes to cabarets, do you do those a little more often, or is this going to be a first for Cabaret too?
This is Cabaret that I did earlier this year. And I have done cabaret performances in the past, but usually as part of a larger group. This year is the first time I've ever done a solo evening.
Getting solo all over the place.
Yeah,
2 solo
right?
performances right here at Lake Dillon. Great. What are some of the pieces that you'll be performing?
I'm performing some standards from Cole Porter, some musical theater pieces from probably a little-known duo called Goldrich and Heisler. They write comedy songs. Some things from The Wiz, stuff from Stephen Schwartz and The Baker's Wife, and some standards and some things that people haven't heard before.
A little mix of everything makes for good cabaret that way.
Yeah.
You personally, what do you like seeing in a cabaret, that mix?
I do. I love the mix. I really love to sing old standards, jazz and things from the 40s and 50s and that kind of stuff. So there is a little smattering of that in this show as well.
Yeah, the stuff you can just belt out and you really feel that old bandstand groove.
Exactly.
Great. Well, Sue, Sue, Sharon.
No, it's all right. I am becoming Sue for the month.
and I'm sure I might not be the first person to have done that to you since you started. Well, I did want to ask for maybe one of your favorite Sue lines.
Oh, well, let's see. I have to keep it
PG, radio
for
friendly.
your audiences. Goodness. So at one point, Sue is telling an anecdote about, and of course this play is set in 1981, so you can imagine the reference. She's talking about her new car phone that she's had installed and how it's the size of a dismembered baby's torso. You might edit that part out, but here's the clincher. In talking about this car phone, she isn't really a fan, and she talks about how, well, I tried using it, but it took all the fun out of driving around town trying to run over Faye Dunaway.
I love it. Great show, great performance, and I'm sure it's been a fun one for the audience and for you as your very first solo show.
Very first solo show. Yikes.
Absolutely. Great. Well, Sharon, thank you again for coming in to talk a little bit about the new show. It's showing at Lake Dillon Theatre for one more week. That's I'll Eat You Last, with a conversation with Sue Mengers. Sharon,
Thanks a bunch.
thanks again for coming in on Krystal 93.